This is a story about transformation. When I was a kid, I got bullied a lot. In high school, the tough kids used to sit on the radiator in the cafeteria, and they used to, during lunchtime, just scream, "Lane! Lane!" just to torment me. And it worked pretty well, actually. I used to tremble and wish that I could just hide under the table. I loved acting when I was in high school also. And one of the things that happened every year was there was a declamation contest. And 5 or 6 kids would prepare monologues from plays to perform in front of the school. And the teacher who would do this, Ugo Topo, would help us choose our monologues. So when I was a junior, he suggested that I do this monologue from the play Sade. And so I liked Ugo Topo, so I said, okay. So suddenly I was the Marquis de Sade. And I didn't know anything about the Marquis de Sade. So Ugo Topo told me that he was a nobleman, which meant that he liked to feel his power and he liked to express his power. Oh, he also told me that the word sadism has its root in his name. And I had experienced a lot of sadism in my life, but never from the angle of actually the one with the power. So in this monologue, at one point, I, the Marquis de Sade, take off my shirt and am whipped. And how that happened in this version, it was different on Broadway, but how that happened on this version was that Ugo Topo was backstage with a belt, smacking it on a chair. And every time Ugo would smack that belt on the chair at a certain moment, I would, react to the whipping. So we had practiced this many times, and it was time for the declamation contest. And so the whole school gathered in the auditorium, and the lights were out, and the lights were on me, and I started my monologue, and I started to unbutton my shirt at one point, and something unexpected happened. Somebody in the audience started whistling. And I knew in that moment that if I didn't do something, it would be chaos. Somebody else would start whistling, then somebody would start laughing, then the whole room would be out of control, and it would be a huge humiliation for me. But in that moment, I wasn't little Lane who got bullied every day. I was the Marquis de Sade. And something shifted inside of me. And all of my pain and all of my rage from so many years boiled up inside of me and got channeled through the Marquis de Sade. Now, there's an amazing thing that happens when you're on stage. The audience is black, but on stage you can be seen. So I didn't know who that was. I didn't see who that was. I just heard a pinpoint of sound, and all of the rage and pain inside of me got channeled through the Marquis de Sade at that little pinpoint of sound. And there was silence. And I waited. 1 beat, 2 beats, and then I continued unbuttoning my shirt. And then the whip. And nobody made a sound. That was such a transformational moment. Something inside of me shifted in that moment. Later that day, I was walking through the halls in high school, and there were a bunch of tough kids who were lounging around, leaning against the wall, and one of them started screaming, "Lane!" And I walked right up to him, and I said, "Tony, How you doing? Good to see you. You know my name, I know your name. Have a great day. And I walked on. That was it. I never got teased again. Well, they tried, but it didn't get to me. It didn't happen anymore. Something had shifted inside of me. That was such an amazing thing that happened to me. I learned a lot there. One thing I learned that we hear a lot these days, and it's true, it gets better. Another thing I learned, what Walt Whitman says, we contain multitudes. There's so much inside of us, not just that one little thing that we identify with, not just that little poor shaking boy. There was a inside of me too. And then when I discovered process work, I discovered so much more inside of me.